So I see Starmer as a traitor to this country. He's against the British national interest. This is our own Prime Minister working against what we need and what is right for the people.
So he's done another U-turn. The Chagos Islands, Diego Garcia base, USA are now using that.
You mentioned Trump. He is spitting with rage. He is furious. Massive falling out with Starmer. Now Trump can't stand him and sees him for what he is, which is a loser. Starmer is, it's reliably wrong. I think the special relationship is under real strain now. In terms of the White House, I think Starmer is a busted flush.
Welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Nisiobi, and this is Talk Breakfast host Mark Dolan. Mark, how are you?
Good to see you, JJ. Very well.
Listen, you are the raw executioner, but today we're going to start on Starmer. So he's done another U-turn. First, he said the US could not use UK bases to fire rockets and drones and whatever else around. And now suddenly he's like, yes, Daddy Trump, do whatever you want.
Keir Starmer, there's a problem with his character. He's naturally dishonest. He's incompetent. We thought at least we were getting a dusty technocrat, but he can't run a bath. And he's incredibly indecisive, and his judgment on this one is so off. Let's look at America, our number one diplomatic, economic and military ally. There was a small matter of the Second World War when America's support was decisive, and we can't let them use a runway on a UK airbase to take out the most evil regime in the world and probably the most evil regime since the Third Reich. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Iran is the world's biggest sponsor of terror.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly dangerous country. And yes, it's been neutered slightly with the taking down of the Ayatollah, but there's more work to be done, which I know we'll come to. But this move from Starmer to refuse access to the UK air bases, I couldn't believe the headline when I saw it. And I'm thinking, am I living in a parallel universe here? And the man is of consistently poor judgment. He's a traitor to this country because actually it's in the British national interest to support America. And we are the junior partner. And I'm so sorry, but life is about hierarchies. America's the daddy. And unless what they are doing is completely abhorrent and unacceptable and against all of our values, then we support. I really do. I think that the umbilical cord between the two countries should never be broken. I think if America cut us adrift, we're done for. And if I had to choose between the support of the EU, which is a dying economic bloc with no military, and the United States, with notwithstanding its massive debt, is a powerhouse of an economy and the biggest military in the world. Go figure. So I see Starmer as a traitor to this country because what he's done with Trump and these air bases is against the British national interest. This is our own Prime Minister working against what we need and what is right for the people and for our future safety. It's quite extraordinary. The Americans owe us less now. Next time we're in trouble, why should they help?
Yeah.
And it's an almost cost-free thing to allow the US to use these air bases. And by the way, he's picked a fight with Trump, which then, of course, he's had to flip-flop, and now he's allowing use of the air bases. So he can't even stay popular with the left of his own party because he has, in the end, relented. And now he has participated in what woke nutters think is an illegal war. So this is a new low point for Starmer. He's a coward. He's got no backbone. He's a wet wipe. He is pathetic.
Tell us how you feel.
I'm so angry about it because his misjudgment in the last 18, 20 months since he got into number 10 has affected the economy, right? This is a guy that was going to grow the economy. He's done that by shrinking it. Party of working people that's putting people out of work. Open borders. 70k people have entered the country illegally since he became Prime Minister. Smash the gangs. How's that going? All the U-turns. Poor judgment. But what happens is when it's done at a domestic level, well, our viewers suffer, okay? And my listeners at Talk TV and viewers at Talk TV, we suffer in our pockets and our way of life. This, if anything, is more serious because it's about national security. It's about global security. And whose side are you on? And as always, Starmer picked the wrong side. What he did, he picked the woke bureaucratic elites. He picked the UN, who have been wringing their hands about this action against Iran. They're not happy. And the European leaders who are so powerless. It's a disaster. It's a huge, huge problem. Now, of course, Trump will crack on and he'll enjoy the political spoils from his courage in the Middle East, and Starmer will be left with nothing.
Trump is not happy with Starmer, even though Starmer's now relented. And, Starmer's excuse now is, the request has changed. So that's why I've said they can use the bases, because they asked for something slightly different to what they asked for the first time, which is flipping
That's
nonsense.
right. He thinks that legal manoeuvring will get him out of this one.
Yeah.
And he didn't get the memo that it won't, because the public aren't stupid. You didn't support America in taking down an evil regime. The end.
Yeah. And now the Chagos Islands, Diego Garcia base, the USA are now using that. Trump is hoping Starmer's going to realise and be like, actually, maybe,
wait a minute.
maybe we should keep this.
That Diego Garcia might be useful after all. Yeah. Perhaps there is more to it perhaps it's more significant than the Isles of Scilly or Tenerife or Lanzarote. Yeah, well, you would hope so. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you mentioned Trump and he's given an interview to the Telegraph and he is spitting with rage. He is furious, massive falling out with Starmer. And, Starmer's his own worst enemy. Because if he'd actually had a good fist at being prime minister and done his best to grow the economy and stop the boats and all the rest of it, I would have happily supported that and said, listen, I didn't vote for Starmer. He's not my cup of tea. But I got to admit, the economy's growing or this or that. But of course, none of those things have happened. His only positive was his quite good relationship with Trump at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he was being characterized as the Trump whisperer.
Yeah.
I like Sir Keir. He's my friend. Sorry, Donald Trump comes from Nigeria via Cardiff. But give credit where it's due. Starmer was slightly more solid on the international stage, slightly more solid in that special relationship. Well, what he did is he buried himself up Donald's backside. Yeah. And you knew that because when he came back out, he was fully orange. But all that good work, which I will acknowledge, because we're not an echo chamber here, if he does, but all that good work's been undone.
Yeah.
And now Trump can't stand him and sees him for what he is, which is a loser and a man of consistently poor judgment. Starmer is, he's reliably wrong, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Campaigning to reverse Brexit, campaigning to make Jeremy Corbyn prime minister, going after the farmers. The whole thing is a hot mess. And I don't know where this leaves a special relationship. I think the special relationship is under real strain now. And I think that Starmer, in terms of the White House, I think Starmer is a busted flush.
Yeah.
I think they see him for what he is, a globalist stooge.
Yeah.
Who's a prime minister of a country that he quite clearly detests.
It certainly feels that way. What do you say to people like Jeremy Corbyn and all these other far lefties?
Well, am I allowed to swear? What do I say to them?
Them saying,
go forth and reproduce.
Them saying things like, this is an unprovoked attack, this is disgraceful, Israel and USA must be stopped, blah, 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 blah. I don't know anywhere near enough about Iran, but what I do know, I've got Iranian friends. I have Iranian friends in Iran. I have Iranian friends in the UK. They're all very happy that the Ayatollah's been taken out. They are thanking Trump. They are thanking Israel. I'm seeing Iranian flags and Israeli flags being flown side by side, hand in hand. Those people are happy that Khamenei has been killed.
Yeah.
Why the hell does someone like Jeremy Corbyn think he knows better than people who are actually living the experience?
Yeah, and we're not surprised that Jeremy Corbyn has been on the streets and has been protesting about the liberation of a great people, because that's his focus. That's his worldview, is that America bad, Israel bad, West bad, really. And therefore, my enemy's enemy is my friend. And therefore, he falls in with the Iranians, an autocratic, theocratic regime. But that's Corbyn. We knew that, and thank goodness he never became prime minister. What's more troubling is to see just supposedly well-meaning sort of middle-class lefties, the kind of people that were the Hamas useful idiots during those so-called peace marches, they're back on the streets as well, who ought to know better. And what about the deputy leader of the Green Party? Now, these folks have got designs on government. Well, they certainly want plenty of MPs. Yeah. The nightmare scenario, the worst poll at the moment, is suggesting that if Gorton and Denton were reflected, and of course it won't, but if that were reflected at a general election, the Greens get 100 seats. Their deputy leader was in central London protesting the strikes on Iran over the weekend. So we're in a dark place. There's some crazy people on our shores who are somehow still supportive of this regime. Meanwhile, what have they done? We don't know how many of their own people they've killed because they switched off the media and the internet. So it was not possible to report. But there are suggestions of around 40,000 people. Yeah. And of course, that young woman, 2022, who died in police custody because she was not wearing a hijab correctly on her head. Mm-hmm. So if these are the good guys, I need some help with that.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the royals. This is a story I don't like at all. The Queen. No, I'm a bit of a royalist, much more so when the Queen was around. Loved the Queen. Yeah. But there's a story that's come out basically claiming that her and Prince Philip embarked on a 3-day trip to a country. The expenses were nuts. Yeah. They put in expenses for suits, 10 shirts, much, much more. The Queen also claimed gross amounts in expenses, even though they're funded by us, the taxpayer. Yeah. And someone in the Foreign Office questioned the expenses, and they were told they do this wherever they go, because although they receive money from the civil list, their expenses go to the Foreign Office, and those are never listed and never questioned. Yeah. Now, I don't want to thank Epstein, but it's only because of Epstein that we were able to find out about Andrew paying basically nothing in rent, which is now the same case for Edward and Sophie. They're also doing this peppercorn rent.
It's a nominal amount, isn't it?
Yeah.
A few £100 or £1,000 a month. Yeah. Which wouldn't even get you a room in a flat in London.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So how are they getting away with this? and how long until the British people say, actually, enough is enough? Why are we funding these multi-millionaires? Well,
I think you're so right. And I think what the royal family have to become is more like a political... They have to have the status of politicians or public figures rather than a family. Because politicians are accountable. You have the register of members' interests in the House of Commons. What that means is you got your salary. That's published. We know that. 80 odd grand a year. And then if you go and do a corporate gig or speaking tour, anything like that, you sell a book, it goes into that book. And so, for example, Nigel Farage, who's the MP for Clacton, he has had to declare his income from GB News, which is maybe around £1/3 a year. Well, I think the royals are going to have to be the same. But we had it, didn't we, with the politicians, the expenses scandal. Yeah. Exposed again by the Telegraph. And that was a kind of watershed moment of public accountability. Do you remember people were expensing for duck ponds and things like that?
Yeah.
And moats, flat screen tellies. So I think what we need is the same with the royals now. I think that the world has changed post-Epstein. Mm-hmm. And what we need is full disclosure. They should just simply publish all of their expenses. Okay, it should be a little bit like BBC salaries. We know how much Fiona Bruce makes. And that's it. So full accountability, because it's a scandal. And also, I say that, like you, as somebody that believes in the monarchy. Mm-hmm. I think what was that line from Winston Churchill about democracy, which is, he said, democracy is a terrible solution, but it's the least terrible of all of them, And I think having a monarchy is like that. It's a terrible idea, but less terrible than having an elected president. Yeah. By the way, if we had an elected president, they'd still need a palace. They'd still have security. They'd still have private jets. It wouldn't be cost-free. So as someone that wants to preserve the monarchy, the way that they can be saved long-term is by... yes, brutal honesty about how much they're costing us. And I think we'll get that when William takes to the throne. He'll be a modernising king. And it's my understanding that he is so furious about all the spares, and everyone is HRH, Beatrice and Eugenie, Harry, of course. So he'll cut it right down. And I think that's the way to go. Just to balance out those concerns about the Queen, it does look very profligate, I agree. But it's human nature, isn't it? If you're not held to account for your actions, if it does feel like a blank check, what are you going to do? It's the same with those MPs during the expenses scandal. They were being told by the House of Commons authorities, we can't really give you a pay rise because it doesn't look good. The public hate it. So we'll just give you a pay rise by giving you as many expenses as you want. That's why the expenses happened. And I think that's the same thing that, they just have been given, I think, the royals enough rope with which to hang themselves financially. And I think you'll see that when Charles passes, which hopefully is a long time from now, there'll be an almighty revolution within the palace. And I think that William will be looking at these headlines looking at this bad press, and he will act.
Well, he's already starting to act. Whether it's William's decision or Charles's, I don't know. But Eugenie and Beatrice have been told they cannot join the royal family at Royal Ascot this year. They're going to be fuming about that and probably hugely embarrassed as well.
Well, I'm quite excited because what it means is that old Beatrice and Eugenie will probably put their heads around the door of my local William Hill. Which, because I'm a regular in there, and there's a lady behind the glass called Jean who always gives me good odds, right, especially on the greyhounds. I'm going to the dogs, just generally. But those two, good enough for them.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you don't choose your parents, but they've been swanning around the place, dining out or being prince and princess and HRH. That's helped their careers, by the way, and it's given them access to the royal family. It's given them a life of privilege and luxury. Well, I'm afraid that gravy train is over since we found out that your parents are just absolute wrong ones. Right?
Yeah.
People of very low virtue and ethical standards. Best mates with Jeffrey Epstein, whose crimes are too egregious to discuss on a family show.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid to say that they're going to have to take the rap for their parents. And I think it's exactly right. The optics of it will be so bad as Andrew, their father, still being questioned by police, or at least an ongoing investigation into his actions. You know, this allegation of misconduct in public office.
Yeah.
You know. But anyhow, so I think the girls, I'm so sorry, but you know, you're not going to go to Royal Ascot. It will be very damaging for the royal family to see the two daughters of Andrew giving it large in the Guinness tent with Alan Brazil from Talk Sport. in the Daily Expresso enclosure. Are we going, by the way?
Let me check with finances and see how much we've got left from the Ribena.
Yeah. Well, we're one of the few media companies that lives within our means because we're not the BBC, right? So I suspect it will be maybe our local Wetherspoons. But no, I think it's fair enough. I mean, I don't wish ill on the girls, but you know, Andrew Lowney, who's been on this show, he's the guy that wrote the book that was the beginning of the end for Andrew, and it was called Entitled. Yeah, interesting book. And you know, he's got no sympathy for those girls. No, he's harsher than even I am, and he says they're a pair of grifters, just like their parents.
Yeah,
and he thinks that there's some stories there to be told, because you know that 80% of what was in his book he wasn't able to publish.
Yes,
and that related to Andrew and Sarah and the girls. That we may never know.
Yeah.
So I think that when William becomes king, they'll lose HRH and they won't be princess anymore. And they'll have to be commoners like the rest of us. But yeah, I think this is the right way to go. And then who knows, that all bets are off for Christmas. That's the other big occasion, isn't it?
Yes.
Going to church with the king.
Exactly.
What do you think? Do you think it's harsh not letting them go to Royal Ascot?
I don't think it's harsh at all. They can still go to Royal Ascot. They just can't go into the royal box.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
And sit in the carriage.
Yeah, exactly. I can go to Royal Ascot. I won't be in the box or in the royal carriage either. So, yeah, sweet. Treat them like normal people.
That's what it is, I mean, our viewers, they, you know, normal people are faced with the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice if, you know, the rich and famous had the same thing?
Yeah. Well, finally, it looks like that might be happening for these two at least. Now let's move on to two royals who I know you love, Harry and Meghan.
I'm a big fan.
They are doing great work.
Meghan's a great leader and a humanitarian. I swear to God. I think she's nicer than Mother Teresa. I really do. I think she makes Mother Teresa look like a right wrong, like a real piece of work.
Well, look, compared to their...
I'm much more caring than Mother Teresa.
Compared to her in-laws, she is pretty good, I'd say, Meghan Markle. She's not hanging around with nonces.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a win.
She's nonce-resistant.
She's nonce-resistant, Meghan Markle and Harry. So they were in Jordan doing God's work, visiting refugees, whilst over in the UK, the royal families just seem to be imploding and things are getting worse and worse for them.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And let me be balanced about it. The Sussexes, where to start? The Sussexes have insulated themselves very well from the Andrew scandal. And this is a moment. Do you remember that word, Schadenfreude?
Yeah.
Right. Pleasure at someone else's expense.
Yeah.
And they must be enjoying a little bit of that because they've been subjected to one or two negative headlines over the years.
One or two.
Old Meghan and Harry, the H-bomb. And therefore, they'll be enjoying this. They're loving the Andrew scandal. And to be fair, they've stayed silent on it, which is very wise.
Yeah, they have.
Because there's that book. It's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu, right?
Yeah.
And he said, don't interrupt your enemy when they're destroying themselves. Let them. And that's happened. As far as I'm concerned, Meghan Markle sees the royal family as the enemy.
Here we go. It's turning. And it's coming.
I'm on the turn.
It's
Here it comes. I do. I think that Meghan is a very combative personality. She's pugnacious. She is a troublemaker. She creates conflict. Conflict is her commodity. She's a disruptor. And I think that she wishes no good on the royal family. I think she'd love to see the whole thing collapse. So I've got no doubt she's loving the Andrew story. I would say that Harry is mixed on it. I think in one way he's enjoying the drama around Harry because it's like he's not like the naughtiest spare now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's the least bad spare. And it's just, he can kind of go, well, look, we're not there. And what a hot mess that. On the other hand, deep down in his core, he believes in the monarchy, and deep down in his core, I do think he cares for his family, and therefore he'll be worried about the institution. But no, Meghan's, forget about it. So yeah, they're having a great time. They've gone off to Jordan, and they're meeting victims of war. And my thoughts with the victim of war, that all those people, they've lost limbs and PTSD, mental trauma, have they not suffered enough without Harry and Meghan turning up?
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Hi there, do you have a banana that I can write a message on?
I think we're going to end it there, Mark. That's a good place to end it. Let's call it a day. Mark Dolan,
Thank you,
everybody.
JJ.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate it.
Next time, I'll say what I really think.
Like, share, subscribe, and hit the hype button. That's all for today's Daily Expresso. Bye-bye.